Welcome to On the Sidelines, the show that discusses sports and how sports intersects our lives. I'm your host, Paul McGrath, and I'm glad that you could join us. Our show will be focusing on glass negative pictures relating to sports and other local interests. I am glad to have as our guest historian Frank Morrill, who has a long-time interest in pictures from glass negatives and by necessity an amateur detective in searching for information relating to the pictures. Frank, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Oh, glad to have you. Let's go, before we get to the archive of the pictures, a little background on you, maybe what you've done and how you ever had an interest in glass negatives and pictures.
Well, I'm a retired history teacher,
Yeah.
and I find that history doesn't stop. You keep making it every day. In fact, what I just said is now history, so we can look back at it. But when you're working with students in class, you're trying to find a way to reach them, to make it relevant. And the best way is to make a connection. And I found that using old pictures always made a connection. I would sometimes pass out pictures in the class to the students that were from 1900 and just ask them, give them a blank piece of paper. What do you see? And they'd be stumped at first, and pretty soon they'd start to see trolley lines. They'd start to see what wasn't there.
That's true, yeah.
And that was always
It isn't what you see sometimes,
right?
It's what you don't
and so
see.
what I've done is carry this forward in writing books about pictures and history. And through the years, I've developed a pretty large collection of things: glass negatives, documents, pictures, postcards, old postcards. And most of my stuff, we'll call it, is back before 1920. So 100 years old, back into the 1880s for pictures. And it's been my interest. And in retirement, I've been retired 16 years from teaching. I taught at Millbury High School. And so therefore I keep it going. I find this kind of a labor of love doing the research. But what you said earlier is completely true. When we were speaking, one thing leads to another. You know, you find one thing and say, oh, I didn't know that. And now you're looking at something else, and you become an amateur detective. You really do. And it's the only way that you can dig out this information.
I know, but back in the day when I started, it was a little Brownie Holiday Kodak camera. And there was a bank, Worcester County Institution for Savings.
I remember it well.
And if you started a savings account for $10, which was big bucks,
Yeah.
they gave you the camera. And that's how I started. And of course, now it's all digitized. And back then you had negatives. It was something called 127 film. But I am amazed at some of these people. I remember a show on Tony Vaccaro in World War II, and he was developing pictures in his helmet, you know, the negatives.
Yeah.
But now we're going to go back to something called a glass negative, which is way beyond. I mean,
way beyond.
Can we talk? Can we look at just
Sure.
in general what
would
a glass
would you
negative?
like a quick history of how we get to this?
Let's get there. Yeah, let's.
Well,
you're a history teacher. Give us the whole show
the
here.
first picture is taken in France. It's an 8-hour back in the 1820s, and it's really kind of a church scene, farm scene. It's really not clear, but it was discovered that if I just leave this little lens open, that the sun will give me this picture on a silver background, and it's about an 8-hour exposure. And so people tend to think that all the exposures are very long. That's why people didn't smile. Not true.
Or they didn't want them to move.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't as true
Yeah.
as you might think. And what happened then, by 1839, they came out with a thing called the daguerreotype, and they start coming out with ambrotypes. I don't want to get into too much detail on, but these kinds of things were not a negative. You made one picture. If you wanted another one, you made another picture. They're on copper. They would shine it up. It took quite a bit of chemicals, and those chemicals would stain your hands badly. And then the glass plate negative came along. And the first one was a wet plate negative, and a wet plate negative was the ones during the Civil War. They would, under their little
the hoods, yeah.
hood of cloth,
Yeah.
they would have to smear on this solution that they had mixed. And they would couldn't let it completely dry. You wanted to get a little tacky. Then in the camera, and then out, then dry, then develop, while bullets, of course, are floating over your head in the Civil War. That's why Brady, who didn't take a lot of the pictures his teams did, why they're so incredible. those kinds of negatives made it difficult, but still they were negative. You could reproduce another picture from those contact pictures. They didn't have enlargers at that time. Right. And then in the 1870s and by 1880s, they developed a dry plate negative. And they would come in a box like this. And in that box, it would be, and you'll recognize the name on it, Stanley. Okay. Stanley Dry, they were one of a few. And Stanley brothers, twin brothers, would later take the money from selling this company and get the Stanley steamer.
Oh, is that right?
Famous car.
Yeah.
And the Stanley brothers sold it to a guy you might have heard of, George Eastman.
Yeah,
Eastman Kodak.
Eastman, right. It's all related.
And he kept selling. By the time these were bought, by the time the man bought these, Kodak owned it. He kept the name for a long, long time.
Now, I assume probably that this would have been professional photographers. I mean, the average person would not have.
Right, but amateur photography opened up at this time. You could purchase a cheap camera, again, a box camera, tripod, the whole bit. You could purchase it, but by the 1880s, Eastman Kodak, George Eastman from Kodak, it was now coming out with little box cameras. And they didn't do much. I have a collection of them. You put the film in and you push the button, that's it. Down the side, that's it. There's no adjustment of any kind. But now you could take that roll and send it to them. And that opened up, but for good photography, for good pictures, it relied on this size. You know, this is a 5x7 negative here.
But you'd have to put that in the camera and then
you would then
take it out very carefully, I suppose.
Right. This would be covered. Yeah. You'd open the box. You'd have to make sure that you were done without light, of course. And they were all sensitized already. They look kind of. I've got some that have not been produced into negatives. And what they really looked like at that time was like foggy glass. You know, you'd see in a bathroom or something. And you would take that, and of course sealed, and you'd put it in the camera, and it had a cover on it. You pull the cover out, now you're ready to go. Yeah. And as soon as you open that lens, it would hit it. Now you got to cover it back again, take it out, and process it. And that's still time consuming.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Click, click, click. Yeah.
But by that time, by the time they came along, this is a negative of downtown Worcester, 1912. By the time these guys, this particular man, William Bullard, that I have the big collection of, almost 6,000 of his glass negatives. By the time he came along in the 1890s, you weren't sitting like this for a long period. Wet plate negatives in early cameras, they actually had a brace that would put around your neck sitting in the studio so you wouldn't move and keep you there. But by the time he was doing it, you're down to less than a second always.
Oh, they did have it less than a second.
Oh yeah. So when you would see people, and I have a number of negatives where you say, what is that? Is that a tumbleweed in the picture? It might be a kid rolling, and you might see two legs sticking out to roll. Or not at all. That's because he was really moving. But you could take a picture and someone could blink. They only didn't smile almost universally because of the cultural thought process at the time. Yeah.
So this, you have a 5x7. This is an actual.
This is an actual negative, an 8x10.
Now, are they any larger or bigger? Or
I've
smaller,
actually held in my hand one. That's why it's in this size. This size, 11x14. It gets to be cumbersome. Now, there's a reason for that. If you want a 5x7 picture, then you'd use the 5x7, make a contact print. They had a wood holder for it, and you'd make a contact print over the paper. And now there's a 5x7. You want an 8x10 picture?
So it depended upon the size of the picture, I see.
Right.
Yeah. No enlarges.
And then the enlarges came along, around 1900, roughly a little bit before. And they started to work with enlargers, and of course, then it was not necessary. But this is a 1912, and he didn't change. This particular photographer did not change over to acetate, the big plastic negatives, and so his entire collection is glass.
So you have, I think we called it if I have it correctly here, a William Bullard collection of 4,000 to 5,000. He was a photographer in Worcester, right?
In Worcester. Yeah. He lived on Mayfield Street in Worcester, but it took me a while to find that street. You'd think you can find 5 Mayfield Street, and I looked. It's over in the Beaver Brook area, Park Ave. And I thought, oh, gee, for shame, his house is gone. You want to see his house where he lived. And it was gone. And actually, it was there. It's just that I didn't know until I one thing led to another. We were talking about earlier, and I started looking at maps, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. This is Mayfield Street on the other side of May Street. Oh. Now it's Maple Tree Lane.
Oh, they changed the name? Yeah.
And they moved Mayfield across the street. So I'm looking at today's Mayfield Street. When I looked at 1900 Mayfield Street, you know, the year 1900 when he lived there, the house is still there. And I got to go in the house and look at, he took pictures inside. He took pictures of everything. He's a very unique photographer.
Well, we'll get into some of his. But you said you had 4,000 to 5,000.
There's just under 6,000 of his.
Of those.
And
you have some more.
Yeah, I have a little under 10,000 total negatives.
Of these type?
Of glass. Like
so how do you categorize those, or where do you keep them? Or
extremely painfully and slowly.
I can't imagine. I mean, I have negatives, but I can't imagine this.
Yeah, well, what I did was I sat there and looked at hundreds of boxes, and I thought, okay, let me look in this one. If you look at the edge of the box here, I don't know if the camera will pick that up if he zooms in on it. Okay. You'll see that this one, maybe if I put my glasses on.
Yeah, no, me too. I don't know.
This particular one says school groups and ice harvest.
Oh, I see.
Holden, Paxton. In other words, Worcester. He wrote on the boxes.
Well, that was my question, because you can't write on this, can you?
Well, he can to some degree, and I'll explain that, yeah. So he'd write on the box. So I'm looking at all these, and I would look, and I'd say, wow, look at this. Streets in Worcester. And I'd look, and it'd be 3 Holden, 2 Paxton, Holy Cross College, and I'm thinking, over the years, who knows, they got messed up. So that wasn't always totally accurate. Yeah. So I thought, if someone says to me, do you have a picture of Holy Cross College? And I thought, I remember there was one and now you start digging. Well, I didn't want to handle these so much. I knew that wasn't cool. So I called the conservator at Eastman Kodak in Rochester many, many years ago, and I said, look, help me out here. What have I got? How can I clean them? What can I do with them? So after long conversations with this gentleman who did this for a living, he said, you need to put these in archival, especially buffered, acid-free folders that are made just for them. They're 4 flat folders. You put it in the middle, and you up 4 times, and then I write on the outside. So in August of 2003, I sat down, and I took a blank piece of paper, and I wrote 1. And I looked at the negative, cleaned the face of it, looked at what it was. I said, that's Worcester. Wrote down Worcester, and I wrote down what it was and a description. That's 1. Well, now I have, I think, 5,300 of those written, done in the archival folders. And when I said slow and painful, it takes a long time because, okay, that's Holy Cross. Okay, that's Assumption. Okay, that's downtown Worcester. I have no idea what that is. It's a beautiful building, and here goes the research. Sometimes you can't find it.
Right, I understand.
And in 2013, 10 years after I owned this, my granddaughter discovered, through an accident, looking in a box of streets, a black lady in there, handed it to me. We were working on a book, and she said, this isn't a street. I said, no, that's a black lady.
Woman, yeah.
I look at enough negatives that you might not be able to tell, but I can see, you know, I can see the reverse pretty well. And I said, I don't know why that's in it, and I put it aside. Well, months went by, and we were getting ready to work on our next book. We had published that one. And we're sitting down, and of course she's 11 almost, and she's going to chastise her grandfather. You did not put that away. You tell me to put stuff away. So she picked it up, and I said, I'll get to it. She picked it up, and she's looking at it. She held it up. It's smaller than this. It's 3.5 by 4.5. She's looking, and she says, why? What is this? I said, what is what? She's right here in the corner, and that's just where it was, down in this corner. There's a number 76 here. It looks like someone scratched it in. I couldn't see it. I still can't see it to this day. Take out a jeweler's loop, pops, but her eyes were better. And so I said, wow, I don't know. And I continued working with her that day. And then a few hours later, I don't remember exactly how long, but okay, wait a minute. When I bought this collection 10 years ago in 2003, there was some papers with it. There was an old account book, an autograph book. So I pull that account book out, and it's numbers.
Yeah, they were numbers.
And they lined up. And it's like the Rosetta Stone. When I found that, and I said, well, maybe there are more blacks in the portraits in the city because those are much more rare pictures. Yeah. And by the time I was done looking through them, scanning them, looking through them, We got to 243, and the rest is history because it has ended up in a major exhibit at the Worcester Art Museum, and it still continues. I do programs. It's still very, very big, and it's all because of research.
Now you say you cleaned it up.
Yes.
Well, you just didn't take a. How do you clean it up? What
Well,
do you do to clean it up?
You can only get one side clean, and that's the glass side. You can't touch the emulsion side.
Yeah.
And there might be quite a bit on here, dirt through the years.
Yeah.
Now, the easier I clean it is probably shouldn't tell people this because it's a big secret thing for. I've had people.
We can cut part of this show.
No,
out.
I'm kidding. I've heard people. I've been to programs where people said, "Now you take a cotton ball, and you dip it in water, and you just keep doing it, and then you clean it, and then you take a dry one, and now you do that until it squeaks." And I thought, I'll be 175 years old before I get my
With
negative.
the number you have, yeah.
So, I thought I have a better idea. I'll take a squirter, Windex thing, with a little bit of Windex in it. Just drop a couple drops in it. You don't want anything to go over the edge.
Right.
A couple drops in the center, and I'll use a nice cloth, and I'll just clean it. And I can do that in 5 seconds. And I put it aside. And that's what I've done for all of them.
And it works.
Oh, it works
just
perfect.
a one shot.
Oh yeah, just clean as could be.
Nice wipe, yeah.
And then on this side, if they flake, a lot of the age, they start to peel up and flake. That peels off that coating, or there's some dust. You can use a light brush, a very soft brush to get rid of that. Luckily, of that nearly 6,000 of bullets negatives, he probably doesn't have 10 that have flaked. They're in almost beyond belief condition. They've all stayed together the entire collection.
Well, now they talk about climate control. Do these really need to be climate control?
Well,
he wouldn't have been climate control from the 1900s on.
The first 40 years after he committed suicide in 1918, as a young man, 41 years old, they stayed with his brother for 40 years who had no interest in photography. They stayed in the back room of an old house, an old farm in North Brookfield where they had moved. And their postman knew they had them because he had had his picture taken as a child by Bill Bullard.
Yeah.
He wanted them, and he bugged him about them. And he finally sold them to him in 1958, 40 years later.
To the postman.
To the postman, who moved them to his house in East Brookfield in a non-climate control closet where I got them.
Yeah.
And they stayed there for 45 years. I keep a pretty even control on them, just to keep them perfect. But the key, mostly from what the conservator said to me, it's good to keep the relative humidity down, but what's much worse is a great fluctuation over and over and over, up and down, up and down, up and down. So my temperature where I keep them is pretty solid year round, and I try to keep the relative humidity pretty even. And I've had them, like I said, since 2003. That's 18 years. And they're flawless. You can see the back of them. They all look like that.
So this is bullet 4,000 or 5,000, but you have a few thousand more. Where have you picked all these up?
I got some, strangely enough, at a furniture auction in New York City. Why there were glass negatives? There were 450, and a friend of mine was at the auction, called me and said, "There's some glass negatives at this auction." And I said, "At a furniture?" It made no sense. So that's the best place to buy them because no one's interested. So I told them what I'd be willing to pay, and I said, "Do you know what they are?" And the boxes weren't clear at all. You know, there were no names. He said, "I pulled out a few. One of them looks like Worcester City Hall." And this is a guy that grew up in Worcester, and I thought, "You think it's Worcester City Hall?" He wasn't sure. And this was prior to, I'll send you a picture on the phone. We didn't have that. This is back many, many years ago. I said, "Well, buy them." Of the 450, over 400 were Worcester.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like,
in New York.
I was like a little kid in a candy store in New York. I bought them at auctions before. I bought some 8x10s at auctions of the Worcester Fire Department. You don't know what you're going to end up paying. Again, it's who's there and who wants them. I paid much more for the 8x10 glass negatives of the Worcester Fire Department than I normally would like to pay, but it was a case where I'm not letting these go, so you guys might as well continue to bid because I really have to have these. And so people will pay whatever they pay based upon interest if they really happen to like those. There was a set in Spencer 2 years ago, just before the pandemic hit, and I went to look at them, and I was willing to pay, I said, you know, for this set of Warren and West Warren and a couple, which I don't have. He didn't go there, and I thought they were really nice, 5x7s. Most of them were excellent. I said, I can pay, I'll pay $400 or $500 for these. Well, I was on the phone because I couldn't make it. I was on phone bid, and he said, when the bidding slows up, you can jump in. Started to slow up around $1,800.
Oh.
I said, yeah, have a nice day. I don't know who bought them. Two guys were bidding way past. Yeah. And again, something is worth what people pay for it. Yeah. But way past the
what's
value.
Your interest? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a peek. This here you have. We have a slide up here. There's actually you have the booklet for the Stanley.
Yeah, I have the original
on how to develop.
It came with
one
of
the box.
These.
Yeah.
And that would be how to develop it, the process, you know, how you wash them, instructions for temperature. If in the summer you'd want a slightly different temperature, and it's really fascinating. I mean, I've never used that, of course, because I haven't done that.
And that didn't help in how to clean them then, because
no,
this is strictly
this is strictly for preparing and developing and getting ready to finish off after you've taken the picture. So that is exactly what Bullard would have done. Luckily for him, the chemicals that he was working with, he wouldn't have to slop on, because remember, they were dry plate.
He had to dry it.
And the wet plate guys often would have hands up to here. They couldn't get it out. The stain, their hands would be black from that.
And then we have next, we're going to actually see, this is Mr. Bullard.
There's William Bullard right there. It says Prince of the Past across it. That's my little way of letting people know that that is indeed me. I have a side business. You have to have a name to. I do a lot of framing, so you have to have some kind of a business name, and that's me.
But the clarity of the glass negative,
stunning.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, actually, if you saw the actual original to Bill's picture there, that's his farm on the right in North Brookfield. That's gone. That collapsed about 6 years ago. Fell down. The picture itself, him sitting on a rock, he's way back. He set that up, let someone else snap the picture.
So it wasn't a selfie?
No, he's got a couple selfies, but that's not one. No, I actually cut that out of he's way back. He's back where the wall is in the original picture, you know, in distance from the camera lens. So you've got another?
Yeah, let's see what we have here. So that was the next one here, and again, we're trying this into sports. And sports, this is apparently a 1900 picture, but we're looking at, I always look at the bats and the balls and the type of glove they have. And
you know, the fingers separate.
That's right. And I don't know where, do you know where this was taken? Or
no.
Was this a bullet? Was this?
They're all everything you see is a bullet. I think there may be one that isn't. I'll mention it. Yep. Everything is a bullet unless I say otherwise.
Okay.
I mean, you even see someone photobombing in the back.
I know.
She opens the door, hey, hello. I see that a lot in his pictures. You'll notice it's the clarity on his pictures. If you see them up close, well, you can look at the negative. Yeah. You know, you look at the negative, it's stunningly clear on his. He was really a masterful photographer, and that's not something I would really know. I've had to learn that from experts who looked at how he posed people, what he did, the angles he used, way past my skill level, but I've learned about it. And this just seems like a neighborhood group.
Well, you've got all ages there.
You certainly do, and I don't know, you'll see coming up there's some more homogeneity to the group, but this is just a group, neighborhood group. Everybody seemed to jump in the picture. What's the story? He didn't say much on this. He made note of his almost 6,000 negatives. He made some kind of note about 900 of them. Many he didn't have to. If I've got a picture of City Hall, he doesn't have to tell me it's City Hall. Yeah. So I could find another 3,000 just by research or by knowing what it is. So that brings me to about 4,000, and the rest are just, let's see. And I keep finding them. You know, I just posted one, and a woman told me it was her great-grandfather. And then showed me a picture of her great-grandfather, so this is good.
Well, that's there's a lot of good and bad on Facebook, but the good is that these pictures can be put up there,
Right.
and people can see them. And you've probably made contacts on people
Many.
seeing these pictures and say, "Oh, that was my great-grandfather," or, or whatever.
I've gotten that in a number of occasions, or questions will be asked. I try to answer the question as to what I do know about it. Luckily, many of the ones I put up, I know the names of the people in it, and that's how I got the grandfather. I not only knew his name, I knew where he lived.
Now, how about this picture? Any idea?
Nothing.
Nothing. I mean, because I don't know how you got 1900. You try to look at the bats, the way they dress.
Okay, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Sometimes two things. Many of the pages had at the top 1900, 1904.
Oh, so you knew the
so
year.
I knew the year, and then some of them would have something written beside the picture.
Oh, I see.
Some of them did not. And so it's very helpful. And then in other ways, I might have a related picture. This happens a lot. See the gentleman way on the left with the suit?
Yeah, up top? Yeah.
On the top, back row. He happens to be in another picture that's identified.
That is.
And he's dressed the same, and it was 1901. So it's like...
I tried in myself, I haven't done this, but when I do a picture, you should know who, what, why, where, and when.
Exactly.
Not that you do them all. But,
yeah.
Why I took a picture, I don't know. But I remember reading an article not too long ago in a newspaper somewhere that there was a woman, I believe, maybe in Rhode Island. But anyway, she does what you do on glass plates, but she's into genealogy.
Yeah, her name is
but she won't.
Maureen Taylor.
Okay, but she won't do it unless there's some kind of a clue. You know, she just won't. Yeah.
I met with her. We had lunch for 2 hours.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
When we first started, Maureen Taylor. She's called the Photo Detective Lady. She has a podcast.
Oh, really?
And if you go look at her podcast, one of the podcasts is me. So
well, we'll skip that one and get to
and so she's brilliant. She's been doing this her whole life. She lives in Providence.
Oh, it is Rhode Island. Okay.
And we brought the pictures to Jeanette Greenwood, who has been my colleague. She's a professor at Clark. And this, the migration of blacks to the Worcester area is her specialty. So that's why I was able to speak with her, and we become friends. She lives in Providence. She had gone to see this lady before I met Jeanette, and she said, I'm going to call her and let her look at the pictures I had. And she can look at the clothing. She can identify, she's been on major programs and done worldwide stuff. Yeah, she's very, very well-known, famous, lots of books out. I've got some of her books. So she can look at a picture. If I don't know the age of the picture, she can get it awfully close just by what's in it. I can do buildings, type of awnings. I can do certainly trolleys, the tracks, wires overhead, none, because the wired trolleys didn't come until 1893. So I can start to put it together. She goes way past where I am because she can look at the stitching in the clothing.
Actually, well, I look at the bats.
That's Maureen
and the
Taylor.
balls.
She's fantastic.
Tremendous. All right, what do we have next here? We got
yes.
There we go.
Well, there was a gentleman, a black man in Worcester. You can drive down his boulevard, Marshall Taylor. It's Major Taylor he went by. He was a world cycling champion, first black world champion, and of any kind. And he was from Worcester. He lived in Worcester some of the time. And this is not him.
Oh, it is not.
I was hoping.
I did a little research on Major Taylor, and I thought I have to talk to you about him.
No. I was hoping it was him with that shot by Bullard. Now you look at that and you say, where is that? That's all wood.
Yeah, that was my question.
That's a wood.
Yeah.
You know where that was?
No.
Took me a while. There's 3-deckers in the background. See them up there?
Yeah,
just over the fence.
Yeah.
Big hill. That's almost across the street from East Park in Worcester.
Shrewsbury Street?
On Shrewsbury Street.
Shrewsbury Street.
This was located. I do have a picture of the whole stadium from way back.
So there was a stadium.
That's Gage Street.
Yeah, up top.
Those 3-deckers up top.
So
that's
you
Gage
think
Street.
This would have been on Shrewsbury Street?
Oh, I'm positive. That's exactly where it was.
And they actually had a track.
Yeah, they had a.
I wonder if it was where East Park was.
It's called. It's like a Coliseum. It was called. It looks like a. It looks like a. I'm trying to think of like a high school track, only wood and lifted up.
Like,
stadium around it. Seats around it.
What did this negative have? Nothing. It just I don't know what.
It had no marks on it.
No marks.
No, I had to do all the research on that one. But I have been up that hill, Gage Street, where those 3 decades are. They're still there. So I was able to find that. East Park is at the bottom. So right where the word past is, that's East Park, on the other side of the street. This is on the opposite side of the street.
Oh, you're on the other side of the street.
Yeah,
I see.
right. This is on the Max Diner, and that side of the street.
Because I saw this, prepping for the show, and I said, I wonder if this is Major Taylor.
Oh, would I have loved it.
So I looked at, he was born in Indianapolis, but then he came to Worcester.
Yes.
And as a teenager, and he turned pro, because I guess cycling was a big sport back then.
And for this area, he made it blow up.
He made it says, according, if you believe, this was just Wikipedia, and I usually check
Well,
those,
I've got his original autobiography
book,
which is pretty rare. I do have a copy, so I'll let you know.
He turned pro when he was 18 in 1896, and I was reading somewhere that then on the pro circuit, Negroes weren't allowed, but because of his popularity, they said, we're going to allow him. So you find social,
right. He actually lost
races
because he didn't do some little thing perfect at the beginning, and they'd disqualify him. But he fought his way to the top. He was that good.
Well, he was a world champion.
He was indeed a world champion.
And that was a big sport. I didn't know how big it was, but you really didn't have football, all the biggies. This was probably one of the bigger ones.
Fastest bicyclist in the world is his autobiography.
Yeah. So if he so we have no idea who this gentleman is.
Not a clue. But he's
and he had to be going at a pretty good speed, you would think. I mean, he wasn't stopping.
Well, the one good thing, he's slightly blurry. He's not as clear as a bullet. But again, if something's coming at you, the only thing that really changes if he's going straight is the size. But if he was going by bullet, it'd be a blur. Instead, but that's awfully clear, and he's moving. You can tell he's moving, looking at his arms. Most I've blown it up so that it's just him on the screen, huge, so you can look at that. And he is pedaling at that point. He's not just, he may have been coasting, but he was moving fast.
He was moving, So, all right, let's see what we have next.
Oh, yes.
This one intrigues me. This is White City that many of us that grew up in the area. That was an amusement park.
It opened in 1905-06 and closed in 1960 when I was a junior in high school. So I drove to it.
It became the movie theater, Well, that was the big thing,
remember that? Right on the corner. And now it's still White City sign. And they used to bring all kinds of entertainment there, and this girl's about to dive off. There's another picture, a person would ride a horse off of a ramp right into the water, jump in the water, riding on the back of a horse.
White City.
White City. There are others. I got that one because it just stands to pose. It's beautiful with the white background and all, and she's standing there. There was another one. Did you go to White City?
Oh, God, yeah. When I was a kid, that was a big treat to go to White City.
Remember the swings going out over the lake?
Over the water,
I have a great shot of that. The Bullard took a number of those. In fact, he took a picture of them building the roller coaster, the white roller coaster there. The Gee Whiz was the name of it.
See, because I don't remember any pool or anything.
That
must have been gone many years.
That was gone. The Midway section, he's got pictures of it. There's this giant rectangular section, and a boat would come down into it. Lake, pond right in the middle of it. That was all gone by the time I went there. I went there probably from the early 50s on. And when you look, one of the pictures I have is you look at the pond and people standing around it. It's taken around 1910. You look up way off in the distance up on the hill, and is the, as they called it then, the Worcester Lunatic Asylum.
Oh, yeah. Right up
or the
on
Worcester
Belmont,
Home for the Chronically Insane.
Yeah.
Right on postcards. They would actually print
they put that. So, who, what, why, where, and when? What do we know about this? What do we find out? Any of the?
We know that there was a lady who, don't know if that's her, but probably is. There was a lady whose first name was Janice, and last name I think was Sullivan, who did that kind of thing and was in the Worcester area. Do not know.
And look at her; she's looking at the camera.
Do not know if that's her. But there was a woman by that name who did this stunt. She would dive straight in, by the way. There was no, right in.
Just out,
and yeah, and they would try to raise it higher and higher, you know. People would try to outdo them. The water was down another 7 or 8 feet deep.
Well, how did you figure it was White City?
Oh, it's clear. The building right in the back. The building on the back would be the main facade, the Penny Arcade right there. That's the beginning of it.
I see the arcade, yeah.
Yeah, and that's all of it. And then to the left of that was the fun house. Remember the fun house with the big wooden wheel and the
crazy
slide?
mirrors and all
yeah,
that?
Yeah, that one, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I recognize the couple of the buildings. But it didn't have to say White City on it because it was on the slide, because it's in a box that said White City.
Oh, I see.
And that was my first clue.
You're pretty good on that one, yeah.
Plus, the other pictures you recognize in a moment because you've got the Worcester skyline, you got the bridge. Yeah.
Well, no, those of vintage us. White City was a big treat.
Deal.
All right, what do we have next? We have going back to sports a little bit. We got a hoop and a baseball bat, and I don't know what else we have here, Frank.
Well, I put it in because of the baseball bat and the hoop and the stick that the boy has in his hand.
Has a stick, yeah.
And you would run and get that hoop moving.
Yeah.
I don't know how exciting that was, but that's what they
played.
I
don't know, and I look at the side. The bat is almost like a piece of straight wood. I mean,
yeah, they weren't manufactured quite like today.
Yeah, well, it's probably handmade.
A lot of them made on a lathe, right?
Yeah.
And a little kid in there. This picture, I put it up on Old School Worcester.
Yeah.
And this is the second most commented on and liked picture that I've ever put on. I put a couple hundred on now over the past year.
Yeah.
People just jumped on that one, and that's Gage Street, by the way.
But I doubt if it's a family. Those kids
look
pretty
not
much
a family.
the same age.
No, that's not a family. That's just a group.
Yeah.
I wish he had named them all. I have pictures where there's 6 people in it, and he tells you exactly who they are.
Yeah, but not this one.
Not this one. That's just all I got out of this one is he told me it was Gage Street.
Yeah, look at the wooden, wagon they have for the baby or the other boy there.
You know, the trouble is he wasn't far enough back. I could drive up to Gage Street and see what homes with the background, because there aren't that many homes and it's a steep hill.
Yeah.
But they may have ripped a porch off. If I had more house to look at, I'd have a better shot at where it was. Once you found that, you could find out who lived there in 1902, and you could start to piece together who may have been in the picture.
As long as they didn't change the street name on you.
Yeah, they've done a few of those.
Okay, let's put now here. I don't know what. I look at this one. What's
that's
this
one of
one
my
all
favorites.
about? That's your favorite. Well, tell me about it.
Yeah, that's a good one. There's no sport involved in that.
I know.
One,
well,
obviously.
maybe they're racing horses in the fire.
Yeah. Well, those horses would move quickly.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful picture. You know where Memorial Hospital is in Worcester?
Yeah.
You go up the hill, up Belmont Street.
Yeah.
Just right after you pass the main building, turn right. That's Eastern Ave.
Yeah, right.
Go about 200 feet, and there it is. It's still there today. It's a private residence.
So that building's gone.
That building is there.
Oh, it's there.
Still there as a private residence. It's been gone over, so people live in it as a home.
It looks as if it may have been taken up higher. Or
well, there's a good story on that.
Yeah.
When I put that in my book, and I went there alone one morning to take the picture, and I wanted to take it the same way for today's picture using that one.
I see, yeah.
And I was standing in the road, and I said, this isn't going to get it. Took a few pictures. And there's a 3-decker there, and there's a man on a 3-decker. There's a man on the second floor, and he said, what are you doing? And you get that a lot. You're in someone's neighborhood, and who is this guy taking pictures of people's homes, because that's a home. And I'd often ask, you don't want to be polite. And I told him what I was doing. He said, oh, can I see? So I ended up going up, take the picture from his porch, from his little porch, and I had coffee and homemade donuts. I spent a half hour there, and to me, that was a wonderful morning.
Well, that'd be great.
I showed him a bunch of pictures, and he was thrilled.
Yeah, because a lot of the 3-deckers now in Worcester, those front
gone.
porches are gone.
But that one was there.
Yeah, that was there. Because it's a great angle.
I found it very fascinating. I've run into that a lot. One time, my granddaughter and I it was like 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and we're standing in front of City Hall in Worcester taking pictures because we're going to use a few of those. And we're standing in the middle of the road. There's no cars. I mean,
Main Street in Worcester,
right on Main Street. There's a lot of times no cars in the middle of the afternoon. So we're standing on Main Street. We took a couple pictures in different directions. I wanted to get Harrington Corner right in front of me.
Yeah, a lot.
And a policeman comes up Front Street and turns the corner and puts the window down. He goes by and he goes, I said, well, we're doing a book running pictures. He goes, carry on. He must have said, why is this old guy and this young kid standing in the middle of the street here at this time?
Yeah,
but
they just get
you would get people's curiosity when you went around and take pictures. Yeah. And that one is, again, 1904, about, that's Easton Ave.
I wonder
he took all the old stations.
Well, that was my question. So he did, but he had to probably go up to the second floor too, like
yes,
you.
Yes, may have. It was a different home, I think, because mine's a little more straight on. But I can tell you that the last horse that they used, they started using trucks in the teens, but the last horse they used died in 1932.
I wonder, that makes my question, what did Westboro do in other towns? But that was Worcester.
Well, they were all they were all almost completely volunteer.
Yeah, oh God, yes.
In all of the towns, and a lot of this was volunteer. He took, Bullard took a number at Elm Park and a few places when they would have a fireman's muster, and they would have just the fire rig, and the fireman would stand in front of it. And so I've got a lot of those that he took really sharp.
And again, the clarity, because
the clarity is stunning.
Across the street, up on the second floor, whatever floor it was. Yeah, look at it, Aiden's pulling in there. Look at the clarity on the gentleman.
And again, I've only scanned these in at 600 DPI.
Oh yeah.
If you were to scan, I've scanned some things in 4800 because I have a scanner made for this.
Yeah.
And so I would be able to scan it in and take that gentleman right in the middle, you know, and read his buttons and stuff. It's just crazy.
You can make a portrait of each person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the clarity.
That's a beauty. He took maybe 4 of this station, and horses in different position. It's just wonderful. There's an incredible view, by the way. That street aside of it, they've made a garage under there now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
oh,
there is a small garage. Yeah,
you have to give me the
right
number.
on the
I'll
side.
check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, just go past the hospital, turn right on Eastern Avenue. It's right there.
Oh, it's right. Oh, it's right. You should turn.
On
the right.
On the right. As soon as you turn, it's on the right.
Been to Memorial Hospital enough. Yep. All right. The next one is intriguing. Let's see if we can bring it up there, Aiden. And I have no idea. This one is like, what is he doing?
Well, he's doing exactly what you might think if you look to the man on the left, look to his right. This is made by the street. If you were to blow can you blow that up a little bit, Aiden? There's the Worcester Street, the Worcester Consolidated Street Railway Company.
Oh yeah.
Trolley. That's a trolley.
Oh, the trolley line.
These guys would fix the trolley lines from sitting up there with a horse pulling them along. This was a wagon made to fix the trolley lines.
Yeah.
That's a pretty specialized picture.
Because at first I said, well, it can't be electricity. Cause
no, it's trolley.
It's trolley.
Yeah.
And you think that's in, where do you think that is? Any idea?
No,
you don't?
No, just Worcester. A lot of times it's Tatnick, but I don't know where.
No,
it's Tatnick. Yeah, it's in Tatnick.
The airport, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Tatnick.
People don't know Worcester,
I had a box of Tatnick, 2 boxes of Tatnick. So I know Tatnick, but Tatnick at that time was farmland.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Tatnick was farmland. Now, the trolleys, I think I'd mentioned earlier, we had horse-drawn trolleys. He took a couple pictures of them, and those were in the late 1880s.
Yeah.
And then by 1893, they had electrified. And so now you got rid of the horses pulling, those poor horses pulling trolleys.
Oh my God.
The trolleys were on the track, but the horses were pulling.
That was a horsepower.
Yeah, no. I have a few pictures of that. Not fun for the horse. That's why they call those places like Dead Horse Hill, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I understand that one.
And the story behind that is not the horses would die going up. The trouble was they couldn't hold a wagon back going down.
Oh, coming down, they run
down. It'd be dangerous.
We got run over some, yeah. All right, let's go back to sports here a little bit, and there is the
West Side.
West, I don't know how I see WS, I don't know how you found out.
He labeled it.
Oh, he did?
He did label that, the West Side Club. They're more of the same age. You see, they're ready to play.
Yeah, there's 9 of them.
They got their baseball hats. A lot of times, the clubs that I was able to find, some of the games would be 7 on one side and 4 on the other.
Oh yeah, we did that. You can't hit the right field or whatever.
Yeah,
you make up your own rules.
Right.
Because if you can Aiden hone in on the right side there, you can see his baseball glove.
I mean, just
right there.
Just look at that. That's a catcher.
It looks like it looks like a left-handed catcher's glove, which is very unusual. And the boy on the right, you can see his glove. I mean, those were the gloves in those days.
That's
there
it.
was nothing.
Yeah, he's got a tiny bit of stitching in his, which would have been unusual. But look at the way they're dressed, and they might play looking like that.
I was going to say, they dress. Look at that. You can see the freckles and everything. I mean, it's just.
Oh, the remarkable clarity on these pictures. Yeah.
So any idea? So this is, you think?
No, I put this on the old school Worcester, hoping that someone, and occasionally someone will say, I know where that house is. I get that. Because I can't possibly. I've got thousands of these. Yeah. My chance of researching all of them is zero. I mean, as it is, I've already researched a few thousand. Yeah. But to research, first of all, you'd have to have homes that were still there. I don't know. Those, if you can.
Those are good size.
If you can go back out on that picture,
look at those.
Very good. Yeah. That's possible to still be there. Look at those too. Yeah. They're distinct enough that you could pick those out. Yeah. That's definitely West Side, as opposed to maybe downtown where it'd be more three-deckers. Yeah. That's going to be more some of the bigger homes on the West Side. Yeah. So who knows where exactly? Someone might tell me. Yeah. Well, the boys, it's interesting.
Boys are ready to play baseball.
They're ready to go.
They don't look like they're dressed to play, but they probably were.
Can you get the ball? The kid, the kid in the front's got the ball.
Well, look at the ball. Down a little bit.
Now, you know this is not Major League quality.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
Major League's, any kind of scuff mark, it's gone. Look at that.
Yeah, no, when I was a kid, we'd be playing in the people's front yard, and sometimes there was a lake. Indian Lake was right aside of it. If we hit a foul ball to Indian Lake, we're trying to get the ball back in from the lake, and away you played again. You didn't have another one.
That's it. No, look at
yeah.
Sure looks like the same as a baseball.
It's a baseball.
And they had a tradition. I haven't gotten all the answers on it yet. A lot of the boys had a ring on the middle finger. Oh, younger kids. That's common. We see girls with it too. And I need to call Maureen Taylor or send her an email. Yeah. She's very responsive. And ask her that, and I'll bet she'll give me an answer. My view is, why would I spend hours researching this when I can send her an email and she'll tell me, you know why they do that? And she will know. I guarantee she will know.
Yeah, she can probably tell us if they played baseball.
Oh yeah, she'll tell you, where that sweater was. No, that's not a Sears sweater because she's brilliant.
Look at the glove.
She truly is brilliant.
Look
at the glove.
That
baby has seen some better days.
But a lot of the major leaguers back in those days, the gloves were
played like this on their way.
You wonder how they make great plays today.
Oh yeah,
well,
sure. You're in the Ty Cobb times, and look at the glove he had when he held his hand up.
We're going to get to him. All right, let's go on here. Old Union
that's one of my
Station.
Favorites. Yeah, that's a good one too.
This is Worcester, but this is not the current Union Station.
No, that one is right in the middle of 290. And so if you're facing Union Station, look to your left where 290 is. Yeah. The tracks are still in the same spot behind the station. Yeah. Those tracks would have been over to the right and gone into a big archway. Yeah. Each side of the archway had that winged lion holding it up. Yeah. They're now at East Park, those two lions. Yeah. And so those tracks would have gone right into it. This would be 290 you're looking at. As a child, I remember much of that building in the big tower to the left right there was standing when I was a kid. I remember walking by it, looking up at the tower. And then I came out, in 59, 60 when I went through with 290.
290,
but those are taxis.
Do we have a year on that one? I didn't write it.
Yeah, that's right around 1900, late 1890s.
I mean, a beautiful carriage for.
They're gorgeous. Yeah. Lights. You can see the lights on the side of them.
Oh God, yeah.
They're, that's your ride.
And then look at the driver, all dressed up,
all ready to pick you up.
Right.
Take you.
Look at them all lined up, just
the
like
fee
the taxis.
The fee to go from the station right here to up to downtown, right, completely downtown was 5 cents.
5 cents. Yeah. I wonder if they'll take us to Westboro. Who knows? Probably.
Yeah, I think they would.
Although Westboro had a station.
So you would have your own, right?
They did. Station. All right. Well, let's okay. And this one.
I threw on because you asked me for something interesting.
Well, I'm looking at this. They got oars.
This is Tatnick.
They're having a couple of beers and
the bottles in their hand, I was able to blow up. They're closed. They're not open yet. They're Bowler Brothers Ale.
They are ale.
Yeah, those are ale. Bowler Brothers downtown. It looked like he spilled some on his hand, but actually his hand is wrapped. It looks like his hand is wrapped.
His middle finger. Maybe that ring was trying to get
I haven't been able, if you go down to the bottom, Aiden, of right in front of those guys, there's a dead chicken right there on top of it. And I don't know, potatoes, a dead chicken. That I can't tell you what that's about, but it's quite a shot. Yeah. All he put was,
look at that.
Boys in Tatnick.
Boys of Tatnick. Well, it looks like they were ready to have a.
They're ready to
have
something.
I hope they weren't going out in a boat there with those oars with their beers.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Look at, and again, the dress code.
They're ready. I mean, they look pretty good.
You know, then I don't know where casual dress was then, but it's everybody, no matter, it seemed many people, no matter what their station in life, they always had a nice set
Right,
of clothes.
and even when we look at the people of color community, they wanted to look well.
Yeah.
And you'd look sometimes at the shoes, you'll see some of that, and they were completely worn out, and often they would be handed down person after person. But that's quite a unique shot. When I saw that one, I kind of chuckled. He took two of those. He took another one, them kind of sitting on the wall, but this one was better, so I chose that one.
All right, we're going to skip over to Westboro a little bit here.
Oh, I like that.
These pictures were taken, well, I don't know who, but they're on WestboroCenter.org, has these pictures. This here is the 1906 Westboro High School baseball team. You know, you're a teacher. I always say, what, 1906? That's not the letter O. It's 1906.
We always say that.
So I always say 1906 because I'm
yeah.
a numbers guy. But anyway, what I'd like to do here, so they say this is the 1906 Westboro High baseball team. So you can see WHS.
Yeah, you can see the
So for the sake of our audience here in Westboro, I'm going to give you some names. Some are missing if anyone's watching it, and you can tell us if it's true, false, or if you have any information. We'd love it. The back row, the first fellow, no name. The
left or right?
On the left.
On the
first
left,
fellow
okay.
on the left, no name. The next fellow, George Taylor. The next fella, and we're going to talk about him, Clarence Leland.
Wow.
Without the hat. The fellow with the hat is a question mark. And the last fellow, they put Mr. Waldron. So if anybody knows those names, Taylor, Leland, Waldron, or idea who the other people may be.
Somebody's grandfather or great-grandfather.
Could be. The second row, the first fellow with the hat, we don't know who he is, or they don't know. The next fellow with the glove, Dave Roach. Then we go with Frank Moses. So that took care of the second row. And the first row, we had Lawrence Taylor. We had Frank Riley. We had Mr. Question Marks, the third. And the fourth was George Riley. So maybe they were brothers. Now, what happens, Frank, you know, here I was just looking at this, and you do detective stuff without even trying.
Of course. Okay?
So we see Clarence Leland up there on Milk Street. And is the next one Clarence Aiden? Yeah. So there was a link to his picture here. Clarence Leland, he lived on Milk Street here in Westboro, no number, who knows. And he was inducted into the U.S. Army on June 3rd, 1918, at the age of 26, which means if the picture was in 1906, 1918, he'd probably be 26. It fits. He played clarinet. His is the Army card in the 63rd Infantry Band. And it says he and his father, Dexter Leland, eventually took over ownership of the Westboro Chronotype. Now, the Westboro Chronotype was the local newspaper here, and they're digitized, and you can go online, and I've done that to find certain things. So
that's a good picture right there. It's good and clear.
Yeah, and again,
how much does it look like him if you can put them side by side?
Well, if we can put them each, I don't know.
Yeah,
he's supposedly the one in the middle on the top.
Without the hat?
Yeah, without the hat. Yeah.
Oh, that really could be him.
Yeah,
That's close. Yeah, it could be him.
Here we
Sometimes
go.
it can't be.
Yeah, I know.
But that really could be. Yeah.
Anyway, and again, you do the detective. Work here.
That's good.
So that's the 1906 Westboro High. If we go back to now, this is 1916, or it says circa 16, and we assume and again some detective work. It doesn't say WHS, but it does say W. And let's go over the names here in case people trying to figure out who people are, some of the names here in Westboro. And the back row, there's 5 people, but there's only 4 names. So we have Joe Boudreau, John Lenane, and there are Lenanes in town, Irving Hennessy, and Ben Arnold. But for some reason, they named 4 people. They didn't put which one was the question mark. Middle row, Carl Henry, Leon Rogers, Ken Winter and Bill Crowell. And the front row, we have Ken Bruce. We have a question mark on Leon Cantor, which will be the second person on the left, and we're going to get to him. Third, in the middle, there would be Walter Hayden, question mark, and the last one is John Foster. So, this was 1916. That would have been the Westboro High baseball team. And we find a link, and who knows if it's true, Leon Cantor. And there he is. He lived on Hopkinton Road. Again, no number, no, not in those days. And what's interesting about this is supposedly, and we have his Army card, he was inducted into the U.S. Army. Again, the World War I was almost at an end, but he was inducted on October 5th, 1918, at the age of 18, and he died in Westboro October 14th, 1918, a week and a half later. So the question is, maybe it was we had a pandemic 100 years ago. Was it the pandemic? I don't know, but again, we can go crazy here on, like you said, Frank,
you could find a death certificate.
We could find that. Yep. I was a little lazy. I went this far, but again, that
you did
was
well. You did well.
Again, it's the fun of doing it too. I mean, you've got to enjoy it.
When you find something, it's so great.
So that is your Westboro High baseball teams from 1906 and 1916. If anyone can help out.
Were those Mr. Kittredge's images?
No, I don't know if Phil did those. We have a couple of Phils that we're going to show.
I've watched some of his programs. He's quite good.
Phil Kittredge is our kind of unofficial photo archivist here in Westboro, and couldn't make the show, but we'll get to some of his. This was, of course, we had the Lyman School here in Westboro.
I remember that.
And these are, the best they can date these are 1905 to 12, the Lyman School team. No names. I guess you get the Lyman, how they got 1905.
And it looks like you have two people of color in the picture there.
Right, and at the game. And the next one, again, looks like almost the neighborhood pickup game.
Good.
Again, same dates, and they're saying this is at Lyman School. And look at
I think there's every chance that catcher is going to get the bat in the head.
I know. I think this was a posed picture.
It's a posed picture.
I think this was look at the umpire. I mean, I think they posed this one. And again, I don't know if Phil had these. We have a couple.
It's a great shot. Kid with his feet together. A lot to learn.
Yeah. So let's get to one that Phil did do. Phil Kittredge, and I want to get into, this is from the, let's see, road race in 1912. Downtown Westboro. It looks like they're heading out toward Chauncey. I mean, the clarity of this. Now, I'd like to get your opinion. To me, this is like it could have been yesterday, except if we had
somebody colorized it. Yeah.
Phil colorized it. Any thoughts on colorization? And I love the black and whites, but the colorization to me makes it look like it could almost be yesterday. Any thoughts on that, or do you do that?
Yeah, I've colored something like the Eastern Ave Station. I've actually made a print, 16 by 20 print, and then colorized the print. Yeah. Just shades. Yeah. It's fun, but for me, I personally like black and white much more. You would see itinerant photographers go around from town to town, take pictures, come back a year later, 6 months later, and then want to sell the postcards.
Oh, I see.
Well, they would make notes about what they took a picture of, so that when they colorized this 1908 postcard. So I have postcards of my high school, David Prouty High School, in any colors you'd like. They would get it wrong.
You name it. Yeah.
You name it. Different color bricks, yellow, and of course it's a brown sandstone. So it looks good. They get the bodies pretty well when you colorize, but the buildings are a crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great picture. I love the
and nice
again,
shot.
You can zoom in on these. Here are the runners. Who are the runners? What was the race? Look at that. The clarity.
See that looks. You're right. Like recent, except when you look at the street, of course, the mud.
Right. But it could.
But
it
could be yesterday. Yeah.
Just a tremendous. And
it does a nice job for that.
Yeah. And the next one, again, the same thing. This is from Phil.
Oh yeah.
Downtown Westboro. Again, here we are having a great parade.
This was very common, by the way. The cars would be decorated, the spokes would be decorated. I've got many of those Bullet took. I've got, I may have a couple of Westboro. I got some West Boylston. I may have a couple of Westboro parade.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, because yeah, Phil, similar to you, where he finds these, you know, and there are very, well, I shouldn't say few. There's probably more people than you know doing this, but it's just a tremendous.
They're hard to find.
They're hard to find. Yeah. Let's see what we have next. Well, we're back to you in baseball.
Yeah, now it's a much older group.
1902.
Trying to find that stadium. It's not Clark. It's not Holy Cross Fittenfield.
Yeah.
I've looked. I have pictures of the stadium at Fittenfield that he took. That's not it.
Yeah.
So we're not sure. I think my guess is, I don't know if you're familiar with Elm Park in Worcester.
Oh yeah.
If you're on Park Ave, looking at Elm Park, there's a street right behind it. Right behind that street was the agricultural grounds, a big oval called the Oval. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's where they were.
And again, all you have is you get the baseball gloves and the bats.
Look at them. What you got on this one? You got the chest protector.
Yeah.
And look down at the bats, Aiden, down at the bottom. I'm not sure why they almost look like they're spray painted. That's probably rosin from handling them, but it's odd.
It's up and down the whole bat.
It shouldn't be on the whole bat.
Yeah.
You know?
You look at the catcher's glove. When I started as a boy playing Little League, some of the gloves were just like that.
Yeah, and you see the mask now, you know, the newer things. If you were looking at a picture in the 1880s, that which I have, that the glove would look nothing like that.
Can you zoom in? Is there on the boy with the catcher's glove there, is those letters S?
Yeah, it's a
S-Y?
It's a looks like an S-Y-M. Or S, it's an S-Y, and from the M they make a Y. Yeah. You know, it might be St. Mary's.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, but everybody's commented on that. I put that one on also, and people are commenting about the letters. But it does look like an S and an M with the Y made out of the M also.
St. Mary, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know that.
But look how you can zoom in on these. And,
so you know it's a uniform. Certainly that is a...
they're the same. That's
just an S.
That's the same thing right there, huh?
Yeah, just an S.
That's an S, yeah.
You know, and it's a small group. And there's a man, kind of obviously older, must be the coach, you would think, of whatever that group is. And he's not quite dressed like today's coaches, but...
No, they don't dress that way.
Yeah, and they've got a few bats, which is unusual to see that. I don't see the ball anywhere, but... And a chest protector and a mask, so. Yeah. Spikes, they got spikes.
All right, now you're going to confuse us here a little bit. Here we go. Not sports, not outside. What's your story here?
Well, the pictures on the mantle are pictures that Bullard took.
Oh, I see.
And then made and matted.
Yeah.
I have all those negatives. I've blown each of those pictures up. I actually have the negative to that picture because I have all of his. That's a camera in his house in North Brookfield, which is no longer there. That's a back room fireplace. He took a picture in the mirror.
Oh, so that's him.
Well, here's what happens.
Somebody.
People claim, we've had all kinds of discussions on this one. I've blown that up at 4,800 DPI, huge. So you just got the camera. My take is he's not behind it, that he's done this with a cable. Other people tell me I'm wrong, that he's definitely there. They can see his shoes. So we're going to let that flow, but I'm about 100% certain that he's not there. And can you blow that up, just the camera part? A little bit more. I don't know if you can get it like I need it. No, see, it's not. Well, look at right about where his arrow is, right there, right where there. There's a round to the bottom. See how that dark is round?
Right.
Well, what that is the back of the cloth. So if he was actually behind there, tucked behind it, how would he look in the camera? It would be over his head to be on his back.
Yeah, that wouldn't be there.
That wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But they claim they see his shoe.
I don't know if that thing's a shoe or not.
Yeah, I say he's not there, but it's fun to do that. You know, I could be wrong.
Well, no one's going to disprove either.
But we have to understand that my take on him, he's a man that's about 6'1", maybe 190 pounds. So he's not disappearing behind that.
Bullard?
Bullard, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
I have pictures of him. He's the bigger of the brothers. Yeah. There are 5 Bullard brothers. Okay. There are 6. One died at 11 months old. Yeah. So he's a pretty good sized guy. So for him to be he was a big guy for those days. Yeah. Pretty good sized guy.
Okay.
This is definitely sports.
Yeah, this is sports. And go ahead.
That gentleman right there, Howard Beckton, died at 18 years old.
Oh, God.
I didn't know anything about this. He took other Beckton family members, but I looked at that and I said, that's a football jersey. And it is a football jersey. Now, back out a little if you can, Aiden, please. I'm bringing him home when we go.
Yeah. I trained him well. Go ahead.
You did. This is a football made out of flowers.
Oh, God.
Dr. Greenwood, who I worked with,
yeah,
Jeanette, did the research on this particular photograph. And she found out that the BAC is the Bancroft Athletic Club.
No.
Bancroft, Worcester.
Not Bancroft School.
No.
It's a separate.
No, separate.
Yeah, separate.
An actual club. And she found the article in the paper, in the Boston paper. It was called Worcester Whittlings. When they talked about blacks, because he's black. And it talked about how the Bancroft athlete, he was quite an athlete. And when he died as a young man, they mentioned that they sent a floral arrangement in the shape of a football. And Bullitt took a picture of it.
So football, I don't think of football at the turn of the century, but I guess they were playing football.
Well, let me tell you a little story about football.
Yeah?
Would you like to hear a little story?
I'm here. Go ahead.
If any of you watched yesterday and you saw that, someone like Brady threw for 5 touchdowns and the Patriots won.
Is he still playing?
He's still playing.
Yes, sir.
So this morning, as I was looking at a couple of things, I was listening and watching the game. It made me ask myself a couple of questions. So I went, and I've got a first edition of the football book by Leland. It's 2 guys wrote a book on football, 1896.
Oh God, 1896. Yeah.
And so this is trivia for your fans out there that when you're watching this. Why do they call it a touchdown? Well, in the very beginning of the football craze, which started just a little before 1896, the rules of the game in here were simple. You were allowed to get the ball over the goal line, but in order for it to count, you must touch it down to the ground, past the goal line, for which they would give you 4 points.
So touch it down, you get 4.
And then, if you were so disposed, I love their language, you could then take the ball back out.
Yeah.
And then you could try to bring it in again. And if you could get it back in again by kicking or some other method, you could get 2 points.
An extra 2.
Extra 2. Or you could go out if you got close enough and you thought that you would not be able to get it in, because you only had 3 downs then, to go 5 yards.
That's like Canadian football. Yeah. Oh, 5 yards. Oh,
5 yards, 3 downs.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And as you tried to get the football in, if you couldn't and you said, I should kick, I will try to kick through the goal from the field. Today we simply call it a field goal.
Yeah.
5 points for a field goal.
Oh my goodness.
So I thought I'd throw that out there for you. I looked that up this morning.
Got me spinning. When did they change all those rules? So when do you think this was taken? Any idea? I mean,
this was, well, he died in 1902.
He died in 1902?
'02. Well, when I do my zip code, people say, what's your zip code? I say 01507.
Of course you do.
So right? I gotta go on. And when people look at me strange, I'll say, there's a reason for this.
So, I mean, that's just, so this would have been, Bullitt would have taken that picture, where do you think, at the wake or the funeral? Or?
Right at the funeral.
At the funeral.
Well, because he lived in the neighborhood. Bullitt lived, I did not mention that. I did say he lived on Mayfield Street.
Right.
But Mayfield Street's not really in Beaverbrook, but it's right on the edge. It's the next street over.
Yeah.
And so this is his stomping grounds. This is where he walked every day.
And this was where this particular person lived. Yes. So it's, and he was a young fellow. We don't know what
18.
happened, but he passed away. Oh, it's the same. Okay, so let's go to me. This one here is...
Oh, back up one.
Back. This is near and dear to me because this is my alma mater.
You went to Holy Cross?
Holy Cross.
Very good. My wife used to work there.
Okay, we have to throw this in. And that's not a field goal down there. I don't know what that is, but I'll let you go on and give me a little background.
That is an early practice football field goal.
Oh, it is?
It is. The original ones had to be, from the book, 20 feet high with the bar at 10 feet.
And there you go.
This is a practice one,
yeah. So that
18 feet 6 wide, 20 feet high to pole, but 10 feet at the crossbar. And that is one, and that is Holy Cross.
So
that's the main building at Holy Cross.
Yeah, okay, because
that's your alma mater. There it is. I have many Holy Cross pictures that he took.
yeah, that was Father. I checked. Father O'Kane was the president in the late 1800s.
Oh, you really got your
Well,
stuff.
I checked. Well, you get this. Like, you got me going. You got me going here, and
look at those steps.
Yeah.
If I were the football coach, I'd say to the kids, okay, you got 20 of those.
Yeah. Well, that looks like it would be where the current baseball field is. And
yes, because
that would have been
the other direction.
Home plate is there. Home plate used to be down
opposite.
by Southbridge Street, but
yeah, when they put the 290 through that,
yeah,
they turned it around.
They turned the field.
Yeah, when Ted
around.
Williams was there and hit a home run, he was at the other end.
He was hitting toward O'Kane. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Going shopping.
Well, you asked me for different.
You got different here.
How's that? I don't know that I would want to be eating that particular delicacy of the chicken hanging outside, the side of beef.
Well, look at the side of beefs and the chicken.
That is the Worcester Market.
Yeah.
Now, the Worcester Market, the old Worcester Market that people remember from 1914 is still
the one up
standing.
by Chandler Street?
The one on Chandler Street is still standing. It's got carved vegetables and all stuff in the frieze upon the top. This one you're looking at was next door. This is the registry.
It was down. Oh, it was down.
This is the registry of motor vehicles.
Office, or the courthouse.
If you look at the line at the very top, is that all the way back? Yeah. If you look at those lines, I have other pictures taken a few years after this, after they had already now moved next door into the biggest market in the United States at the time.
Is that right?
The Worcester Market.
I didn't know.
If you looked at that, you would see the Royal Theater where the Worcester Market is.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's all torn down now. The bricks, the buildings, that's all gone and turned into the registry and a parking lot. But that's where that was, right next door to the left of the present old Worcester Market.
So what? That one there, my question looking at that is, you can see the people, but it looks like the lady is blurred.
She's moving. She's walking across.
Well, the other people, the other lady looks like she's moving too.
She must have just. This lady must have just stopped enough. She might have been moving faster. Yep. She's blurred for that reason. And the fellows,
I don't know, they're stopped, but I mean, I guess you go down there and say, I want that chicken up there. I don't know how.
That's what. Can you imagine?
I can't. And the side of beef, that must. Who bought that? A person for a big family or a restaurant? I wonder. I mean.
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know if they'd bring it in and cut you off what you want, but just looking at that stuff out there is not attractive.
And I believe you captioned this 1890. So.
Yeah, this is in the early 18. Well, it's in the mid 1890s.
Yeah.
Because on the sign you can read that some of this came from a fair in like 1894, 1895. This one of his. This one of Bullard's. See the Worcester Market.
Prize.
Leave
your order early.
Yeah,
this is we got to get a ladder and get that chicken down. I guess
this is one of his earliest pictures. Bullard's earliest pictures. He has another one looking a different direction. You look in a fish market.
Yeah.
And it's
that says fish there.
Yeah, but there's no price on the one I look at. I gave to a gentleman. I made it up into a picture and gave it to a guy in Sturbridge who runs a fish market, and it has the thing that says haddock, 4 cents a pound.
Oh my God, yeah.
But that was the whole haddock. You paid for the head and everything.
Oh, I see. You got the whole thing.
Yep. But you see the prices. It's pretty neat. That one's very unusual. You can see the lights and gas lights hanging down.
Okay, well, we're going to finish up here with one of the granddaddy of sports pictures.
That's a beauty.
And that is, as we had mentioned way back when, that is Ty Cobb sliding into third base. And again, you had me do a little research on this, Frank. It was the fellow that took this picture is Charles M. Conlon, and he was a tremendous baseball photographer. Born in 1868, passed away in 1945. So he was one of the premier or early sports photographers. He used this for something called a Graflex view camera.
Yeah. Large
format glass plate negatives. I don't know how large. Had to be pretty good before he switched to film. Now this picture was taken on July 23rd, 1923. July 23rd, 1910, I'm sorry. And it was Ty Cobb sliding into third baseman, a fellow by the name of Jimmy Austin, at the Hilltop Park home of the New York Highlanders, '03 to 1912. So I said, well, where's Hilltop Park? Well, that was in New York, and the Yankees, it was a couple stadiums before they had Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
So that's where, and they were the Highlanders, not the Yankees. They didn't become the Yankees until 1913. So again, you look at one picture and you keep on going.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
He had many, many glass plates, and he destroyed many because his house was so small. I guess he didn't build an extra wing like you did. And the current archive that he had of, and again to be precise, 7,462 negatives in 2016. It sold for $1,792,500.
Mine aren't worth as much.
They are worth. And by the way,
they're good, but that's a little better.
And by the way, for you sports fans, especially us Boston Red Sox fans, the Tigers won the game over the Yankees or the Highlanders.
You know what I find
62.
unusual about that?
What?
I find it's a great shot, a tremendous action shot, and he caught him. And you could by that time it was getting down to a tenth of a second with the shutter speed.
Yeah.
Or even less. Is Ty Cobb's both feet are on the ground. He usually would like to slide in and kind of take out the. He was famous for
the high spikes.
He was famous for the high spikes.
Yeah.
Look at
that. Look at the spikes. You can see everything.
He's the one that's about to get spiked.
Yeah, I read somewhere where he almost missed the picture. He had to go under the cover, and he got the picture.
Great shot.
Look at the umpire. Look
at the dirt. He caught the dirt kicking up. That's a great shot.
Oh, it's a great shot, and you might have only had 2 umpires back then. I mean, I don't think they had 4 umpires. Again, you can as you say, we say you can research whatever you want. You can keep.
Yeah, I hadn't looked at that book I owned for quite a while, but I knew I was coming here today, and I said, maybe I'll throw some football stuff, and then it's very fascinating because we say touchdown all the time, or what does it even mean?
Why is it a touchdown? Yeah.
That's why it does it.
Well, Frank, I just want to thank you for coming. Paul McGrath here with Frank Morrill, talking about glass negatives. And not only the pictures, but what you can learn from negatives.
So much.
And as you say, the history, for example, the history of football. Why is it a touchdown? You find out doing the research.
It leads, well, exactly what you said. One thing leads to another, and all of a sudden, you've been sitting there for an hour and a half, and you're going to do 5 minutes of work.
Yeah.
And you love every moment of it.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, if any of you youngsters out there need something to do, want to help Frank, we'll be here. We'll be glad to do it. So, Paul McGrath again, thanking Frank Morrill for coming and being on the show. I want to thank you for watching. I hope to see you at the game. And if you're not in the game, I hope to see you on the sidelines.